Okay, so let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself, giving yourself a pass for something, maybe running late because of traffic,
Oh, definitely.
but then someone else does the exact same thing, and your first thought is like, wow, they're just so irresponsible.
Yeah, it's that little psychological double standard we all seem to have.
Right.
And it points directly to a really fascinating principle. We're diving into something often called Gilbert's Law today, based on this source material you shared. It's a document that really gets into this, well, this tendency we have.
Absolutely. And our mission here in this deep dive is to really peel back the layers on why our brains seem wired this way,
Mhm.
See how it trips us up in everyday interactions, leading to those frustrating misunderstandings and conflicts.
Yeah.
And most importantly, arm ourselves with some practical ways to maybe push back against it. Because let's be honest, it impacts how we see everyone, including ourselves.
So at its core, what is this principle, this Gilbert's Law?
Well, the source lays it out pretty clearly. It says, people tend to attribute their own behavior to external circumstances,
Okay.
but attribute others' behavior to their character.
Right. So think of it like this. When you're the one doing something, you're inside your own head.
Yeah.
You've got access to all the situational stuff, the pressure you felt, the unexpected delay, maybe how tired you were. You see your actions as a response to those things.
Right. It was the situation that made me do it. The
Right.
traffic, the boss calling.
Exactly. But when you're just watching someone else, you don't have that internal backstory.
Nope.
All you really see is the action itself. So your brain kind of defaults to explaining it based on what you can see or, assume their personality, their character, what you think their intentions are.
The situation they might be in is like basically invisible.
Largely, yes. And this isn't some, out there idea. The source mentions it connects to bigger concepts in psychology, right?
Yeah, it does.
It's deeply related to what psychologists call the fundamental attribution error. That's the general habit of overemphasizing personality when explaining what other people do.
Okay.
Gilbert's law, framed like this in the source, really highlights the actor-observer bias, which is specifically about this difference, how we explain our own behavior versus someone else's.
Actor versus observer. Makes sense.
Yeah, they're all really describing the same core pattern from slightly different angles.
And it makes perfect sense that this mismatch is the root of so much friction. We're literally using different rule books.
Spot on. You're judging yourself by one standard
Mhm.
and them by a totally different one.
The document we looked at is, well, it's full of these classic examples that show this playing out everywhere. The workplace one, for instance, the missed deadline.
Oh, yeah, a scenario probably everyone listening has run into. An employee, let's call her Sarah, she misses a key deadline. Now, from Sarah's perspective, she's the actor, right? She knows exactly why it happened. She was totally swamped, maybe had some unexpected tech issues, maybe her boss suddenly changed priorities on her.
Yeah, happens all the time.
So she chalks it up to those external pressures. It was this situation.
But her manager, the observer, they're just looking at the outcome. The missed deadline and Sarah's actions or lack thereof.
And they're much more likely to jump to those internal explanations. Why didn't she manage her time better? Or she must not be committed. Maybe she's unreliable.
Right. Same event, totally different interpretations.
Exactly. And that can easily lead to frustration, maybe even disciplinary action, just based on that attribution difference.
Or the driving one. Okay. This one gets me every single day. Seriously.
Huh. It's a perfect, low-stakes illustration, isn't it? Someone cuts you off in traffic.
Yes.
What's the immediate internal monologue? You're the observer.
What a jerk. Reckless, rude driver. They think they own the road. Something like that.
Right. You attribute it straight to their inherent bad nature, their character.
Guilty as charged. But then, okay, 5 minutes later, I need to merge quickly because my exit is suddenly right there.
But bam, suddenly you're the actor.
Ah.
Your internal script flips completely.
Yeah, it's like, okay, gotta get over. Sorry, gotta get over. I'm running late. This is necessary. Just need this gap.
Exactly. You justify your own action entirely based on your immediate need, the situation you're in. You excuse yourself based on context you know,
Mm-hmm.
while you condemn the other driver based on an assumed character you don't know.
It's fascinating how automatic and, well, unconscious it is. What about in parenting? The source mentioned that too.
Yeah, you'd use the example of, say, a child spilling milk. As the observer, the parent's first thought might be, oh, they're so clumsy, or they just weren't paying attention, attributing it to a trait of the child.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
But then, if the parent makes a similar mistake, forgets something important, drops a plate themselves.
Ah, then it's different.
Then their internal explanation is almost always situational, right? Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed today, or my mind's on a million things. I didn't get enough sleep.
Right. It's the external factors or maybe internal ones like stress that explain their slip up.
While the child's mistake is seen more as part of who they are. And, this dynamic can definitely amp up frustration or impatience if you're not mindful of it.
So, okay, we see this bias is pretty much everywhere. Why is it really important to actively understand it beyond just like spotting it in traffic?
Well, because it's like this silent architect behind so many problems, relationship breakdowns, issues at work, even bigger societal divides sometimes.
Mm,
Recognizing this bias is really the first step towards building bridges instead of walls. It forces us to pause, take a breath, and try to inject some context back into our judgments. It's really the foundation for empathy.
And applying this understanding has like actual tangible benefits. Where can we really put this into practice day to day?
Oh, definitely. In conflict resolution, it's absolutely critical. Before you jump down someone's throat, could be a colleague, a partner, anyone, for something they did or didn't do.
Yeah.
Make a conscious effort to step back.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself, okay, wait, what external factors could possibly have been at play here? What might their situation have been that I'm just not seeing?
So it shifts the focus from they are a bad person or they are incompetent to something more like what might have led to this behavior.
Exactly. And in leadership,
Yeah.
this is incredibly powerful stuff. A manager who gets Gilbert's law is way less likely to just label an employee who's underperforming as lazy or not cut out for it.
Right.
They'll think about the workload, the resources they have, any recent team changes, maybe personal stress the employee is going through that they don't even know about. It fosters a culture of support, not just blame.
That makes a huge difference. And maybe the hardest part, but also the most valuable, is using this for personal growth.
Absolutely. It's about turning that spotlight back on ourselves. How often do I make excuses for my own actions based on my circumstances, my stress, my bad day,
Hmm.
but then fail to grant that same, grace or understanding to others? This awareness allows for a much fairer, more balanced perspective on ourselves and on everyone we interact with.
The source material connects this to some pretty solid research, right? Mentioning psychologist Daniel Gilbert's work specifically.
Yes, exactly. Daniel Gilbert and his colleagues did studies that really showed how easily people fall into this trap, overlooking the situation when judging others.
So it's not just anecdotal.
Not at all. Their work really reinforces how deeply ingrained this tendency is in just how we think. It's a well-established finding in social psychology.
Okay, so it's powerful, it's ingrained, it's everywhere. How on earth do we actually start to, overcome it? It feels a bit like fighting human nature.
It does require conscious effort, no doubt. But the source gives us some really concrete steps. The first one is incredibly simple, but hard to do consistently. Just pause before judging.
Just stop for a second.
Yeah, just that split second. Instead of letting that automatic character judgment, they're so lazy, they're so rude, fire off. Make a deliberate choice to just hold off for a moment.
Don't let that immediate, they're so X thought take root right away.
Exactly. Second, and this is key, ask questions. If someone's behavior confuses you or frustrates you, instead of just deciding why they did it in your own head,
Yeah.
ask them. Something simple like, hey, I noticed this happened. Can you tell me a bit about what was going on for you then? This directly gets you that situational information you're missing.
Because they have the context and you don't. Makes sense.
Precisely. Third, practice empathy. And I mean actively practice it. Don't just sort of feel vaguely sorry for them. Try to actually imagine yourself in their shoes.
Okay.
What external pressures might they be facing? What context could possibly explain their behavior if you were the one experiencing it?
So, like, if I were in that traffic jam, maybe really rushing to an important meeting, maybe I would have cut someone off too.
Potentially. And that brings us right to the fourth step. Reflect on your own behavior. Pay close attention to all the situational excuses you make for yourself every single day.
Oh, boy.
I was short with them because I was stressed. I forgot that because I'm totally swamped. I made that mistake because the system was acting up. Once you really notice how often you rely on situational explanations,
Yeah.
consciously try applying that same generosity, that same situational logic when you're looking at what other people do.
It's like trying to apply your own internal justification process to others.
You got it. That's a great way to put it.
So, okay, to sort of bring it all together then, this Gilbert's Law idea, highlights this fundamental, very human difference in how we explain behavior.
Mhm.
Our own stuff gets a pass because of the situation,
Right.
but others' actions get blamed on their character, their personality.
And this basic mismatch is like the engine driving countless misunderstandings, arguments, conflicts in pretty much every area of our
Mm.
lives. It's just that pervasive.
But the encouraging part, I guess, is that simply knowing this bias exists, just having that awareness, and then actively working on those steps you mentioned, pausing, asking, empathizing, reflecting on ourselves, that can genuinely start to rewire how we see people and situations.
It really can. It leads to, well, clearer communication, definitely deeper empathy, and it helps create environments, whether at home or work, where people are seen and judged more fairly.
Yeah, acknowledging the whole picture, right? Their circumstances and their actions, not
Yeah.
just a snapshot of the action itself.
Exactly. Seeing the whole context.
So, as you go through your day, maybe keep Gilbert's Law in the back of your mind, this tendency to attribute our own behavior to external stuff, but others to their character. And maybe just consider this. How often do you catch yourself using that double standard? One rule for you, another for them. And how might just recognizing that dynamic change the way you approach the next moment of frustration or disagreement you run into?